Hey yo, welcome to the QB School. All right, Michael. First question at the goal line. What does a quarterback look for in the shell since they're often in middle field close or middle field open shell? Good question. Goal line, kind of everything out the window. To me, it's matchups. Are they blitzing? Are they playing coverage? Because essentially most times you're going to see some sort of variation of what I'm used to calling picket fence, which is really just birds on a fence, zone across. It gets all condensed, and they really call it red 4, red 2, whatever you want to say, where all the defenders kind of blur into one line. And so if you're a team that runs a lot of man pick plays, they might try to zone you up. Otherwise, they're going to heat you up with zero. And so to me, it's always, is it zero? Is it coverage? If it's coverage, try to find your best one-on-one and go get it. That's a great question. How effective is RPO without a legit threat at running back? Luke, that's an excellent question. Let me tell you why. Well, first of all, it depends on the level of football. Okay, let's just assume you're not talking about the league. If you're not talking about the league, I think your quarterback should probably be running regardless nowadays. If your quarterback can't run, there are ways to get around it. I actually have a full lesson on how to get around it without a running quarterback. But just because your running back isn't a legit threat doesn't mean you can't have threats, the two threats with running the ball. Doesn't mean that you can't get slots, involved in running the ball now with all the jet sweep action, fly sweep action. I think, even in the NFL level, you see that as part of it. They're running ghosts or orbits, the orbit motion behind you. All those things take advantage of the horizontal stretch of what an RPO does. And really, I think it can make your running back better because you create this horizontal stress with the jet sweep, with the potential quarterback run that allows a running back to have a wider hole to flourish in. And so I think you can absolutely have a great RPO package without a legit kind of workhorse tailback. It's a good question, though. All right, Chris, do you think that less mobile QBs will find success in the NFL in the near future? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a barrier to entry. I really don't. I think it can make your life easier, especially as a younger player when things might be not quite as slowed down for you mentally in the pocket, to be able to bail yourself out by being able to make some plays with your feet or your athleticism. But I don't think there's going to be a drastic shift back to, pocket passers per se by any means anytime soon, if ever. And so I think that's the evolution of the game, and for the better, to be honest with you. I think it's more exciting, more fun, more dynamic, all those things. RPOs seem like a great way for a non-mobile QB to essentially run the read option without having to run themselves. You're right. You can do it a bunch of different ways, right? I think the thing about the RPOs that I love the most is when you read multiple levels of the defense. So I think most people think RPOs, and when they think running quarterback, they think zone read, where you're reading the defensive lineman. But you can have a non-running QB and read a second-level defender, linebacker, third-level defender, DB type. You can even have a non-running quarterback read a defensive line type and run what essentially is the wide triple option with the bubble where they just flick it out to the wide, and it's just like running an old-school triple option. So you're right. I don't think it's necessarily the only way to do it. I don't think you have to be a running quarterback to do it. In fact, the quarterback that we had last year that I coached in high school, he was probably a better athlete than I allowed him to be, meaning that I kind of kept him in the pocket just because I was concerned about the hits and didn't want him taking unnecessary hits, that we didn't run it. So we did a lot more down the field RPOs than necessarily front line, defensive line, first level RPOs. Dunbar Spaceship, strong name. Does Johnny Manziel have a chance in the NFL again? He's got a chance. You're looking at less than 1%, though. I mean, the league has moved on. It's a tough pill to swallow, but not that I was ever as good or in the same same situation as Johnny Manziel. But that's the thing about the league, right? Every year there's going to be a new crop of probably 10 guys that get drafted, another, 20 maybe they get to camp. So you're fighting 30 guys every single year. The league will forget about you pretty quick. All right, let me take a quick break. Not quick break. I'm going to talk about the course. See if I can do this real quick, okay? Just so people get a picture of how much value I think is in this thing. See if this thing pops up. This is all the content in the course. So this 6 hours worth of content, over 6 hours, 6.5 hours, 70 images. These are all individual videos. So really super deep dive all the way across the board. Starts about what it is, the rules around it, what it isn't, I think, to really kind of provide the scaffolding to be able to really understand this thing at a high level. and then the keys to install it, understand it, see it, and then we break down each part of it: run, pass, option. Then we talk about how defenses take it away, what offenses can use to kind of prevent those things, and then really look at specifically the power read, different ways to do it, and then kind of what's next with RPOs. And so vast kind of spectrum of all things RPOs. I think I'm really proud of it. I really am. I hope y'all get a chance to at least go over there and check out the free videos, at least if you're not going to purchase it, but I really do encourage you to purchase it. All right. Miles Costin. That's a good question here. We'll talk some pistol. Hey, JT, can you talk about the pros and cons of running the pistol offense, please? So, Miles, it's a good question. The pistol has a bunch of pros and a number of cons as well. You know, it's a good question. That's probably why I gravitated towards it. But the idea being that it really keeps the defense honest. And what I mean by that is they can't pick up on, especially in the RPO world, if a running back is offset for a long time, that normally meant that they were running to the opposite side. Okay, so basically it allowed the defensive end to the side of the back when they're not in pistol to realize, hey, I might get zone read here. I might be unblocked and they might be reading me. Or that linebacker, depending on what they're doing as far as replacement or scraping, you know, hey, they might be running zone read this way, or the RPO conflict defender is this way. Where in the pistol, it could be either side. Well, the reality is defenses adjusted to the offset back, but now offenses have adjusted too, with either flop RPOs where you do the conflict defender on the same side, or same side ball handling. So you can't really do the same thing. I think that if you're at lower levels of football, you know, you can get some keys on teams that have offset back, but really the thing about pistol is the defense can't cheat to where they think the ball is going because of where the back's aligned. Now the con is a few different things. I think it limits you as far as certain runs you can RPO. You can't do everything, in my opinion, out of the pistol. The other thing about it is I think you have an issue if you're ever going to make the back pass protect, coming from that much depth right behind the quarterback. Difficult. Another pro of it, I think the play action is better from the pistol, but it's difficult to marry all those things together. So JT Sports, what up? Boom. Appreciate it. So the pistol for me is one of those things where I think it just depends on what you're trying to do offensively. If you're trying to get vertical, meaning downhill in the run game, looking for double teams, running downhill, A, minus A, those type of things, I think it can work. I think it can work in wide zone or outside zone where it's not RPO, where you're just catching and handing off. I think if you're a big play action team, it's got some benefit too. But if you're a six-man pass protection team, or you're asking the back to pass protect or run checkdowns from the tee, it's difficult. So depends on what you're doing. I think the best of those worlds allow the tailbacks to be a little free about where they align and not let them get a beat. I think my favorite offenses have that tailback kind of in the tee or in the pistol and shift at the last second, or move around, or move from the side back. So those type of things I think are what the best offenses do. But in the end, I don't think it really matters. I think nowadays, maybe 2 years ago, it really mattered on the offset element of the back as far as defenses could get a key on where the teams were trying to RPO. But now teams do flop and same side ball handling so, you know, fluently that they really can't do that as much as they used to maybe, you know, a few years ago. Easton Coleman, can you talk about what a high school coach should expect from his quarterback? I think it depends on, you know, a number of different things. What kind of coach you are, what kind of quarterback you have, what's your kind of, you know, where are you at in the arc of your career as far as your maturity as a coach? What about the player? Same thing as maturity, program, you know, expectations, all those things. But personally, I expect a lot from the quarterback, if not the most out of anyone in the program. I know what I think it takes to function in that position at a high level and kind of demand that accountability throughout the entire course of the preparation for to get into the game. And then the whole system is created for that quarterback to thrive. And so it's a lot of non-negotiables. There's a lot of freedom as far as, you know, what they want to do, how we communicate, all those things are encouraged. But actually running the system, it's just like the nice analogy is like, you know, grammar. You got to know the rules before you can break the rules. You know, as a former English major, there's an element of you can't do your own stuff. Like, this isn't recess. And I know some coaches say the opposite. They almost want to promote that kind of playmaking ability. But for me, we're not going to have somebody play quarterback who isn't a playmaker. They're going to be able to get outside the pocket and make plays. They're going to be able to make plays. That's what they've been doing their whole life. I need to teach them to function and be consistent and effective in our offense with our personnel, with our decision making, with how we structure and want to run our stuff. And so it's that partnership that I look to kind of build with them to take advantage of their skill set and where we're at as a team. And so trying to build this thing together. So that's how I'm looking at it. I know some coaches kind of joke when they say partnership. I was watching some YouTube show recently where the guy was joking about partnerships, but to me, I do think it is that. I think that the team is elevated when the quarterback plays at a really high level. I think that can be compounded by the coach relationship, and that's what I'm trying to create as often as I possibly can. It doesn't happen all the time, certainly not a daily consistent element, but that's where we strive to work